Hey everybody, welcome to our live show today. And I'm Dr. Maggie Yu, functional medicine physician, and we are here today with our whole team from Transform. And today we are, I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves, but today we're actually pulling the curtains back. A lot of people want to know, what is it like, what does it take to actually transform your autoimmune disease? Number one. Number two, what is it like to be in a program to transform your autoimmune disease? Number two. Number three is, what are the tools that we use to actually help do this? And what's the impact of that? What is the real stories and real experience of people that are in the program? Okay, so we're going to pull the curtains back, and we have people joining us already. Right now, this is a live show welcoming audience participation and connection, and many of you have already popped in, and I'm already seeing you guys in our green room. Welcome. And those of you that are watching right now, please click the link that you see. Go ahead and come in and join the conversation. You'll be able to ask us questions later on or give us feedback, anything. We're open to any questions and engagement later, and we'll let you know when it's time. But go ahead and click the link right now and join our green room and be part of the show right now. And I'm going to have our staff introduce themselves. We're going to start with Frankie.
Hey guys, my name is Frankie Niwat, and I am the functional nutritionist on the Transform Autoimmune team, and I'm excited to be here with you guys tonight, pulling back the curtains and answering questions.
Next we have Jackie, our mindset coach.
Hi everybody, I'm Jackie Kennemer, and I'm from Portland, Oregon, and I love to spend time one-on-one with people on calls talking about mindset.
Great, and so today we are pulling the curtains back. What that means is we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how we actually deliver transformation. How do we help people transform autoimmune disease? What are the tools we use? So I'm going to start off that discussion just by going over a framework of what are the tools that we use. Once we do that, you guys are going to start hopping on right now because you guys get to ask us questions live face-to-face. Where else do you get to do that? From your home without even leaving your house. So go ahead and click the link and join right now. For those of you that are watching right now, if you could go ahead and give us a heart, a thumbs up, put in the comment section where you're watching from. I love to know the demographics of where you're watching from. It's great to know who is watching, who's in our audience. So say hi right now. And feel free to share it to your page or to any group of anybody that can benefit from learning more about autoimmune disease awareness. So first of all, we have a program called Transform Autoimmune Disease Naturally with Dr. Maggie Yu. That's me. And I overcame my own autoimmune disease about 12, 13 years ago now. Time flies. But you can read up about my story. But long and short of it was I went for a long time searching for a diagnosis and couldn't find it, couldn't really get anyone to take me seriously. And I'm a doctor. So I realized myself that I was in the fight of my life and that I had to figure my own way out of it. And at that time, functional medicine didn't even really exist. So I really, truly had to find and make my own way. Once I did, recovery was fast. And it's been a journey since then. I mean, I was a family practitioner in the first 10 years. And the last 12 years of my practice has been an integrated physician working with people with autoimmune disease. And now we have an online program where we have tons of participants who've graduated. We have tons of participants in the program right now. Many of them are joining us right now in our green room. Those of you who are alumni, those of you who are participants in our program, come on in right now because people have questions to ask you. They want real stories. They want real experience. And we're going to give it to them straight from you. Okay, so come on in. So a little framework about what are the tools that we use? Why is it so different? And I tell people that there's a lot of other conversation around what the pillars of the program. How do you stop feeding the beast of autoimmune disease? And if you haven't seen the training, watch it. But if you have, I want to actually go over something that's not in our training, which is what are the exact tools that we use to make this happen. And the best way I do it is I'm a teacher. I'm a doctor, but I'm a teacher also, and I love to teach. So what I want to do is right now is share a diagram with you of the 5 tools that we actually really use to help people gain mastery over how to stop feeding Godzilla, which is the autoimmune disease. So I'm not an artist, as you can see, but the first tier of our program is data. And for me, this is why I haven't written a book, okay? Because I don't think that there's a one-size-fits-all when it comes to autoimmune disease. You're absolutely unique, and a lot of these solutions are unique as they apply to you. Even though many of these patterns of these triggers are the same, everybody's unique. So how do we have personalized answers for people is you need data. But people really need to know what the right data is. And I think that there's a lot with autoimmune disease where people actually spend a lot of time, money, on testing that may not even be necessary, that could be red herrings. And that's why for me, it's really important that we provide data and testing for the exact pieces of data lab work that you need to actually make sure that you have an answer that applies to you, that's relevant to stopping Godzilla, the autoimmune attack. So data is really important. Number two is, this is inherent in how we actually raise our children and our families. We value education, okay? And we think education is the key. Education is what gives freedom. Education is what allows our children, ourselves, to actually pursue our dreams and our passion and live our life, right? We have an educational model around a lot of things with education, around careers, vocation, right? Why do we not have an educational model around health, which is the most important battle of your life for many of us who are dealing with chronic disease or autoimmune disease? It really doesn't exist. And for me, I know, because you know why? I had to create the system. So education is actually the backbone. You can't just have data. You need to be educated on, what data do I need? What am I going to do with the data? How does it apply to me? And what are some of the studies behind why we do what we do? And, if you have the information, but you don't know how to actually use it, you're still missing tools, right? So education is key. How do we do education is that we actually have 8 weeks in our program with 8 modules. And these modules are video-based. And so this is the way I know that I'm going to teach everyone that's going through our program a standardized protocol of exactly what the information they need to learn to master this material. We can track their progress. You can track your own progress, which is really great. So this is an educational model around health. So that, what do we do? What's number 3? Live coaching. And I think this is totally missing. I mean, well, a lot of this is missing, but number 3 is really missing, because I call this model where you teach people how to fish, you don't throw fish at them. And if you think about fishing, it's like, if you actually go fishing, you could go watch YouTube, you could actually read a book, but nothing beats you actually fishing on the river when the conditions are changing, with master fishermen and other people fishing, so that you could be taught and you can see from other people's experience that, oh my goodness, it's actually, we have to change the length of the wire, we have to change the bait, we have to change the location, we have to change the fish you're fishing for. How much of a hack or shortcut would that be if you had that kind of training? Which is why for me, this whole teaching model doesn't really work without live coaching. And that's why every week we literally spend hours with our clients in a small group to do live coaching. This is a model that's missing. And live coaching is important. Why? Because you actually not only get mentorship from us who are on staff here training you, but there's mentorship of other people in the program. How powerful do you think it would be to see people that are 2 weeks ahead of you, 4 weeks ahead of you, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? You know, how important to see people a year out from the program and to hear their learning points, their mentorship. Which is why, for me, something that we focus on a lot, and it was a complete surprise to me as a clinician who's worked one-on-one with people my entire career, that community mattered so much and it was so powerful. We recently just did another show on the importance of the missing community in autoimmune disease. Please go watch it. That was an incredible conversation with people about the role of community in their lives, okay? But community is really key. Why? Because it's mentorship of people who are ahead of you, number 1. Number 2, what would it be like to actually think about all the support groups on Facebook, supposedly support groups, quote unquote, that are community for autoimmune diseases? What I hear from all of you is that a lot of times these are scary, depressing. A lot of times it's like people repeating the suffering and sob stories that are going on, their difficulties in getting solutions. There are also a lot of fake snake oil salesmen out there. There's people that are trolls. There are people that are here to have their own agenda. So it's a scary place full of uncertainty, and it is not supportive. And that's why, for me, I was surprised to learn when we created this program that as people were going through it, they came out saying community was one of the most powerful tools. How do we support that? When you join our program, you actually join a Facebook group of people who are, a small group of people who are in our program only during the program. Number 2, we also have what's called a pod system. A pod system, think of it like a buddy system where you're in a pod of 2 to 4 people and you meet once a week, where you spend 20 minutes together on Zoom, like on a meeting like this, where number 1 is you get to set goals together. Number 2, you get to track progress. Number 3, you celebrate you celebrate your wins. And this is where you become part of it, an integrated part of a community. And you also have friendships and support for life. This is something we actually added in the last couple months of the program because community was such an important piece and feedback from participants in our program. We're always changing and upgrading to make this even a better experience. Who knew community was a linchpin for so many? That was a surprise, and that's what we're doing to foster it. After you're actually done with the 8-week program, we also have an alumni group. And many of the people coming in right now are joining us from our alumni group. So those of you in an alumni group watching, go ahead and click the link and hop right in. People want to meet you. People want to hear your experience, what it's like 6 months, a year out from the program, okay? And so the community is also, you'll be in the alumni group. How important it is to actually go in the alumni group with other people who've gotten this master level training in autoimmune disease, who are here to kick ass, take names, and chew bubble gum for life. How important is that? No trolls, no fake salesmen, just people who are really supportive. Big deal, right? Yeah. So top of our pyramid, the apex of our pyramid, I'm not an artist, but actually Jacqueline, somebody who just committed, who just finished our program, just posted a post about showing a picture of her before and after of her ears. And I love that post. If you guys are not in our Facebook group right now, join the Facebook group. You can see her real picture before and after of her ears. And it's incredible because in her case, her literal ears, severe neuropathy got better, right? Completely gone. But here, this is a different point I'm making. What's between your ears is your mind. And mindset's really important. And nobody coming in the program thinks, I need to actually change the way I think. They don't even know to ask for it because a model for changing how you think in alignment with your heart and your body doesn't really exist in healthcare, especially around autoimmune disease. So for me, I help people, and our team helps people identify what it is in their thinking patterns that causes them to stay sick. Right. How great would that be? Well, in the application to health, huge. And what happens with that is then once you have awareness, then you can actually say, what am I going to do to change it? Okay. And so how do we help people change it is, number one, there are actually modules around mindset. Number two, there's homework. Number three, this is where we have one-on-one coaching, and that's where Coach Jackie is here. She's our one-on-one coaching coach with our clients, working with how to actually have them develop new patterns for changing how they think, so they don't not only get outcomes during the program, but for life. That's another piece we actually added to the program probably about half a year ago. So for me, these realizations of community mindset was huge, and there's a big a live that we just did on Friday about that. So please go ahead and watch that. So this, if you think about it, do you know anybody out there who's really using data, education, live coaching, community, or mindset to really help people master how to turn around their autoimmune disease? This model really doesn't exist because I made it up. I created it. Our team and I created it, and a lot of the development of this further was from feedback from people in our program. So I would love to, right now, I'd love to have Frankie or Jackie chime in a little bit about their role in these tools. And then I would like all of you guys who are watching right now to go ahead and click the link and join in, because in about 10 minutes, we're going to be open for questions from you guys, and we and our graduates and participants will be answering all these questions. Frankie?
Hey guys, yeah, so I feel like for me, you know, and what I want to share with you guys tonight is just a little bit about what it is like to work with a nutritionist in this model. You know, some people coming into the program working with a nutritionist or a dietitian is a totally new experience. Some people have a long history with it. But what we get to do, you know, in our realm with nutrition is so impactful because we do have the data. We're not doing broad brushstrokes, you know, across the board, one diet fits all for everyone. We're using data and food intolerance testing to actually craft diets and craft a bio-individual approach to nutrition, which I think is just such a cornerstone of getting results through nutrition. I mean, you guys can raise your hand here in the green room. Like, how many of you guys have, you know, gone on either an AIP diet or something like that, that's like, you know, this broad brushstroke that's supposed to be across the board, you know, reducing inflammation or reducing symptoms, but still having either a really limited diet or not getting any results from it. I mean, the frustration in that is really what we find in people coming to us in the program. Is like, I'm so frustrated. I need a map. I need a way out. And the other part of this is, I think that the live group coaching really provides such a supportive environment for people to feel like they can make changes around nutrition. And so, it's a wonderful way to get to experience a supportive environment to really dive into what I call the longest relationship you'll ever have is with your food, right? So how to do that in a supportive environment is huge for transformation in the program.
I love that. And there's a lot of you who've actually worked with Frankie in our program. If you are, and I know you're watching, Jennifer Simmons, I know you're out there watching. There are those of you watching who's already commenting. If you've worked with a functional nutritionist or you've worked with Frankie, please write your experience down in the comment section so everyone has an idea of what working with a functional nutritionist is like around your autoimmune disease, just to let people know.
Yeah, and I just, just to add to that, I think that I feel so fortunate to be able to be working, in partnership with Jackie as the mindset coach, because so much of our relationship with food is about mindset and really taking this leap to be able to say, what I have in my suitcase or my history of experience around food, there's room for change in it. And there's room to really make transformation and decide that I think it does start between the ears when you make a change about your diet or your ritual or your routine with food. And so I feel so lucky to get to have Jackie on the team as a support to me as well. And what it is to have a mindset shift around your diet and around your nutrition, about the power of food to be able to heal you on a daily basis.
I got Lenny Baylor in the comments in Facebook. So Lenny says, you guys are so awesome. Miss you. Your knowledge has given me such power and freedom. I love that. Lenny, come on in, join us. Jennifer Simmons says, haha, you're right about that. I thought I had mindset figured out. I'm a counselor, for heaven's sake. But I think that's the reality. So something that is not inherent is that what we found is that when you actually are working with a mindset coach, when you're working with a nutritionist and you're working with a medical doctor, and it's all in alignment and you're growing and changing with that, the kind of outcomes that you get is a wholly exponential different level. And that's what I call alignment. And alignment's really important. And it's really missing because a lot of times not even one of these pieces are solid when we're dealing with a game plan for autoimmune disease, right? So that's what I love to provide. So great. And then Jackie, I wanted to ask you, because Jennifer, our counselor, has said that she thought she had mindset figured out. And you've talked to Jennifer and other people in her program. What's your role and what's your experience like?
I feel pretty lucky to get to work one-on-one, and I tell everybody that in the program, because it's such an intimate piece of transforming things. And I think that because so many of us are isolated in our life, or we feel like we don't have people who understand what's going on, whether it's the medical community or friends or family even, it's wonderful to just get on a phone and hear where someone's come from and be able to just affirm them that they're not crazy, and that, that they're welcome here, and that there's community that understands and speaks the language. And as far as mindset goes, it's really just a conversation. So we get on the phone one-on-one and we just talk about some of the homework pieces that are in the modules that we have, but also just what's going on in life. Because some of us don't have people that we can really dig deep with on things and process out. So really my role on this team is processing and helping to come to some awareness and breakthroughs around mindset, because mindset is critical in shifting your game and getting well.
So I would love to, anybody that has questions right now, please jump in right now, because we're going to be in about 2 minutes opening up for questions. So right now we're just going to pause for a second and give you some instructions to join us in the green room. Those of you that are in the green room, if you have a question, if you can type that into chat right now, it'd be great. So, okay, without a question, I'm going to ask Kimberly. Not Kimberly. Kimberly, you had some feedback and comment. You're currently in our program, and I just wanted to hear. We're talking about alignment and some of these tools. We went over the tools with data, education, live coaching, and community and mindset. What's your experience of that like?
Well, I typed in the chat because I think the whole program in general, because of all the pieces of the puzzle coming together and the learning that you have, but the support that you get from everybody that has the same experience that you have is amazing. It's so empowering. And like, I thought I didn't have a food problem. I didn't realize the connection between blood sugar and autoimmune. And I didn't realize I had so many of the things that I needed to work on. Watching people come into the program being really, really sick and getting better is just so exciting to see that journey. So I don't know, I feel very blessed that I've been able to find the group and that I'm a part of the alumni group and a part of the year-long program.
So I have a question, which is a lot of people they could hear from Frankie and I about what it's like working with a functional nutritionist around autoimmune disease. What has that experience been like for you? And the other one I'm going to ask for after you is from Christina on that experience. What is it like working with a functional nutritionist, and how is that a game changer if it was?
Oh, it definitely was, because there's so many misleading things out there that you think that you know, and Frankie's able to break it down. And what I love about the program is it's the learning piece that goes along with it, because it doesn't just say, oh, just give up gluten. You guys explain why you have to give up gluten, and then you're like, oh, it's a no-brainer. You have to do it because you want to be well. Looking at the blood sugar, also explaining all the roles of the pancreas and why it's so important to eat so often and what you have to watch to eat. And it's done in a loving way and a caring way, and it's individualized. It's not each person doing it.
Well, Kimberly, is there something that you're saying that there are some things that aren't inherent? Now that you learn how to do it, you're like, oh, duh. Can you name one thing that you were like, okay, I didn't know I had to do it, but now it's like no brainer, total cause and effect?
I know I had trouble putting fat into my diet. And I kept thinking, if I keep, you guys want me to eat more fat? And I was like, oh no, because I mean, I always had some fat, but not the balance that we need to have. So that was huge. And just the looking at timing my meals and really what it is and what we're eating, not putting processed food into your mouth, but why.
Yeah.
So, and you know, getting the information, the data on your food intolerances, that was a peaceful mindset, because I no longer had to be afraid of what to eat and not to eat, because I knew exactly what I could eat.
I love that. So you're adding more stuff back in.
Yeah.
Frankie has something to say to that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think that one of the big ahas a lot of people in the program have is that, you know, the power of the daily routine, right? And you know, ritual and routine becomes a form of self-care that sometimes has never, you know, been practiced to such an intense degree until they're in the program, you know. But, you know, I think that's what you're saying, Kimberly, is like such a relationship shift with your food and your routine, because it really is this ability for you to care for yourself, you know, every 3 or 4 hours, to be able to know what is exactly going to fuel you and what's going to give you what you need.
And you help us plan. I mean, it's not like you give us ideas and suggestions when we're stuck and we're kind of being, you know, sometimes you just get stuck in that black box and you're like, oh, I didn't think of that. So it's nice to have you, and then other people help, you know, the other people in the group also help. Try it like this, try it like that. So.
I love the food journals. I mean, the food journals that we provide for you guys, you know, it's not just I ate this at this time of day, you know, but it's like, what is the change in your mood? What is the change in how you're feeling? You know, really understanding and unpacking the effect that food has on you, and that we can troubleshoot that. You can make a shift and then bring a food journal and say, what do you think about this? Am I doing this right? I had to take this out, and how about bringing this in? The troubleshooting with the food journals it can really be so helpful in the, in that peeling back the layers of the onion over the 8 weeks.
For sure, and for sleep quality, the sleep, how important food is for sleep. I never knew that it was so important. So.
Thanks, Kimberly. This reminds me of a story Christina Chun has about the baked potato. Christina, can you tell us the story about your baked potato dinner?
Yeah, basically a year ago, my diet consisted mostly of chicken, sweet potatoes, cooked carrots, baked potatoes, maybe some mashed potatoes, the occasional smoothie, some soups. But if I went out to eat with my family or I went out to eat with my friends, by evening, because I was diagnosed with gastroparesis, I would be so full and bloated and uncomfortable by the end of the day that I couldn't eat very much. And then I also felt like I didn't have very many options at restaurants of what I could eat. And so most of the time, all I would order was a baked potato. And a plain baked potato with olive oil on it, salt and pepper. And that's what I would eat while everybody else was eating their steak or, whatever else they had ordered. And so it felt very restrictive, not just restrictive, but it was socially isolating because it seemed like people felt really sorry for me and they felt bad eating in front of me. And so it made it very awkward going out to eat with people.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And that's where I think that the mindset pieces is part of this as well. You really have to shift your mindset around food as well. It's so interesting, the alumni group, how much people are posting about how many places they can eat. And I have the saying, like, seek and you shall find, but a lot of times you don't seek it because of where your mindset is. You think you're stuck in living in that way, right?
Right.
And that's where I think data is important. And Susan has a really great question. I was going to have Susan unmute herself. And Susan, thank you. And those of you who have questions who are in the audience right now, click the link and hop on in. We're going to answer your questions live. So hop in right now. Susan, let's have you ask your question.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to know a little bit more about the kinds of data that you collect. First of all, like the different types of testing that you do, like, the standard. But then also how, I'm in New Jersey, and I understand you're on the other side of the country, and I'm wondering how you help your clients, communicate and connect with doctors and specialists, and just generally.
Well, I'd love to have some alumni help answer this, because that's a really common question is, how do you actually, well, first of all, how is the program entirely online for anyone around the country, right?
Yeah.
And a huge part of that is the educational modules are all online, and our mastermind calls, as the live coaching sessions, are all done online exactly like this. It doesn't matter what state are you in, Susan. It doesn't even matter where you're in, right? You and I are having a conversation. You've been learning and I'm teaching to you. And you see the other people in the green room right now that are supporting, listening, and contributing to this conversation. That's exactly how it happens in our program. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'd love to, if any alumni can talk about the second part of this question, which was, you said, how do you help us navigate how we pick the providers that we need to hire, the ones we need to fire, and how we actually learn to collaborate with the ones we want to work with? Does anyone in the alumni want to raise their hand who want to answer this question with your experience? Okay, Liz. Thank you, Liz. For those of you who haven't seen her video, Liz is a rock star, Florida. Welcome, Liz.
Hi.
Good to see you. It's been like a year.
It has been. I don't know if you guys can see me or if you're just hearing me. I don't know.
We absolutely can see you. There you are. Yeah, okay. Go for it.
So I'm in Florida, and I have found a functional medicine doctor after doing some research and started going to her, and she's been great with a lot of things that I've had problems with, but in the autoimmune realm, she doesn't really know exactly what all to do there. So I found Maggie, and that has been a huge game changer, because with all the education, I am able to partner, like you said, with my provider. And so if I say, hey, you know what, I think I need to order this test, she understands the amount of learning that I received from you, and she's willing to make that, you know, to partner with me, rather than being a doctor who's like, no, this is how we're doing it, you're either in or out. So that was down in South Florida. And then over the summer, after talking with Maggie, that whole mindset thing, I didn't know if we would be able to move, because I didn't know if I'd actually be able to handle the stress of the move. And I didn't want to take huge steps backwards, because moving is stressful. It's like one of those, I think it's at one of the top of the list of stressful events. Anyhow, we moved back from South Florida back to Orlando. And so again, I had to find a new provider here in town, and went to go see someone that I thought, you know, on their website looked like they had the experience that I was looking for. After meeting with them for a few times, I realized, you know what, they're making calls on stuff that does not align with what I learned. And so I had to let go of that doctor. So there is so much empowerment after going through the 8 weeks, knowing like, here's what a doctor should be helping me with, and here is where they don't have the knowledge. They actually just don't have the knowledge. Even if they are a integrative or a functional medicine doctor, this is all still so new for so many doctors that they are willing and they want to, but they still just don't have the experience and the knowledge that they need to have. And so it's that empowerment of knowing like, this is not going to be the right doctor for me.
Well, I think that's huge, Liz, right? Because I think the key is that you're educated, you're armed, you actually know. I mean, for me, it's huge. Like I know there's a whole modules around week 8 where I'm actually teaching you guys what are the exact questions you want to ask this type of doctor, this type of doctor, this type of doctor, to know exactly whether they're going to be in alignment. Are they going to be able to? And to me, I give you guys even the specific questions to see if you can. Will you work with me? Are you willing? And ask, there's just so many ways and specific ways with which you can ask questions to different types of provider to identify who you actually want to work with, right? And that's a level of discernment that it's a skill nobody teaches you. They do not teach you anywhere. There's no education for teaching discernment in your medical care, which is the fight of your life, right? Merritt, you're asking a question. I want you to actually unmute and ask your question, because it's very close to what we're just talking about.
I don't know if I'm doing this properly.
You are.
But we just was curious about, once through the program, how do you find somebody who will like prescribe medication? Like, for example, I have thyroid issues and alopecia, obviously. And just trying to find out, how do you find somebody who will buy into it? Because I can see, you know, the physicians that I've worked with in the past, they think they know what they're doing and they tell me what to do, but they're wrong.
That's exactly my point, is that I think a really huge missing skill for people, for me, and anyone else, please chime in, raise your hand if you want to, is that for me, you got to know what kind of team you want to assemble around you. And to me, you got to, like, when you become empowered and you're educated, you're able to then identify which of the doctors I actually need and which are the ones I don't. You might find you don't need an endocrinologist. You may find that you found a naturopath or a primary care doctor who's very open and willing to work with you. And now you actually know the language and have the confidence to actually have a conversation to say, will you work with me? Do you understand this lab or this lab? Okay, you don't. Will you have a conversation about this? Cool. Would you listen to me about what feels good on me in relation to these labs? Yes. So it's very surprising when we actually look around the room, the places where people found help, the people that they identified for their team after this education, it's like there's so many more options involved that are based on educated. It's an educated decision, not one based on begging and fear, which is a very different model, right? Frankie.
I think that that's one of the biggest shifts that we see is this, begging or searching, that people come in with in the program, and then to see that really transform into, that doctor will be lucky if they get to work with me. We hear that a lot in the group, like it's actually an interview process that it really goes both ways, and that people are not just settling for less. And like what Liz was saying perfectly, like I'm not, even though they may have all the right credentials, they're not doing it for me because they're not speaking the language that I need. I did want to just point out too, I wanted to make sure we answered the first part of Susan's question that she put in there about, what is the data that we gather in the program? And, we've spoken to a couple of the things that we do gather, with the nutrition piece of it, as far as doing food intolerance testing, that really gives a roadmap for 100 of the most common foods that people have issues with in their diet. And then I would say also the food journal themselves are actually a way of data collection, kind of teasing out and pulling, what is your experience in the day-to-day around food and meal planning and things like that. And in addition to that, we look at hormone testing, and we also look at some really crucial baseline labs that are totally missed and totally, not appreciated in a lot of mainstream medicine. So we really give you the tools to be able to direct and like focus in on what really does matter as far as your health pertaining specifically to autoimmune disease.
And I love to say no red herrings. So if you knew what to actually put your time, energy, and focus into, instead of all these other testing that you may not, there are a lot of times red herring, that could be money sunk, time sunk. What would it be like to know exactly the data that you need to actually master how to stop feeding Godzilla, the autoimmune attack, right? Wouldn't that be a game changer, right? Exactly what you need, and minus all the stuff you don't need, right? Focus is really power, okay? We have, I think Aisha has a question, and I don't know if she's in here and can unmute to ask the question. But Aisha, if you can't unmute, I'm going to ask the question for you. Her question was, if you don't have a diagnosis, can you participate in the program? And those of you who are, in watching and you're without a diagnosis right now, you know what she's talking about. And I was without a diagnosis for nearly 2 years. Okay, I had to beg to get tested for my diagnosis. And I'm a doctor. How many of you are begging even harder than that without an answer, right? So, so anybody want to question, any of you, Frankie, do you want to answer? Do you need a diagnosis?
The answer is no. We don't actually want you to wait till you get a diagnosis. We would love for you to come work with us before that. I mean, there's so much time and energy wasted, I feel like, for that searching and that, trying to find the specialist that's going to unlock the key to what my, specific issue is. And really, one of the things Maggie and I say often is, looking like a duck, quacking like a duck, you're a duck. Like there are patterns of autoimmune disease that we've seen over and over again. And those are things that, none of the specialists are not linking those symptoms together. We're able to see what the patterns are. And the thing is, people that come and find us, they know things are not right, and that they, are really looking for, this ability to see it as the whole picture. Like, it may be, I have a symptom on this part of my body and I have a symptom on this part of my body, and they may seem totally disconnected, but people that find us are looking for the way to tie those things together.
So I have some comments from Facebook here, and those of you watching right now, please give us a thumbs up, put some questions in the comment section, pop in to join us for the conversation. Karen Jumonville says, yeah, there's so many people think that you're stuck with whatever diagnosis and that's what you end up with. And the hunt for doctors is a nightmare, but it's just an option, right? So it's really difficult out there, all the different options and the hunt for people. Chris Wenzel, good to see you, alumni there, commenting on Facebook. She said, my new local doctor is amazed at how informed I am. It's because of this program. It makes the appointments way more productive. We'll talk about hacking that, right? Liz Butler, you have a comment. Liz. Another alumni.
Oh, did you want me to jump on?
Yeah, you have a comment right there.
Oh, yes. So yeah, over the years, like diagnosed with so many things,
but you're going to all these specialists, so nobody tells you that really all this stuff is connected because it's all autoimmune and it's all attacking your body. So the last one was lupus, which is an obvious autoimmune disease, but all these other things that built up, like Frankie said, it's better if we get to this crap before it decides to attack all these parts of your body.
Great. Thank you, Liz. And then Helen has a quick question about food. Helen, do you want to mute and ask your question?
Hi, I was just wondering if you use food sensitivity testing and what kind.
Okay. Yeah. So this is actually a huge point of contention. I mean, when you actually look at food sensitivity testing out there, if you talk to a regular conventional doctor, they're going to tell you food doesn't matter. And you already inherently know food does matter. I'm seeing big shakes in the head in the audience right here. And what I'm going to tell you is the second thing they say is all testing is bunk. All testing sucks. So therefore, you can't really test for it. When I'm going to tell you they're actually partially right, almost 95% right. And why is that? It's because there actually really are bad tests. The majority of food sensitivity testing out there suck. Okay? So is there a test that's actually really valuable, really accurate for people with autoimmune disease? Yes. So knowing the right test is really important, number one. Number two is this too, is that the problem is having the right test in itself is not a solution. Why? Because people with autoimmune disease have a very highly triggered immune system, they have a lot of what's called false positive and false negatives. Therefore, if you're working with a doctor that even if they're ordering the right test, but they don't know what's false positive and negative for people with autoimmune disease, you're going to get a wrong understanding of these patterns and you're going to have data that's not useful, right? So not only do you have to know, what the right test is, that's really important, and it took me years to thousands of testing to find out. And secondly is you have to train not just the people I work with, but all of you who are in our program, exactly what is the false positive? What is the false negative? What are the patterns that could be a problem in people with autoimmune disease and how to understand that? That's why we call our process food mapping. And this whole, our nutritionist being involved, Frankie, with the removal and the reintroduction of food is so key. That's why for me, it's not about the test. It's actually about the whole process of doing it right, which takes years and thousands of dollars in pain and suffering off of trying to guess and guess and guess. Frankie?
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that's a big key to, people ask us, how is it possible to make these changes in 8 weeks? And I think that the reason that is, as far as the nutrition piece goes, is because we do get the data and we can make those articulate changes right away, and we can do it together and we can map out a plan, because otherwise the process of, raise your hand in here if you've ever been on an elimination diet and tried to reintroduce foods. I mean, this is a process that can take, months and months and months and leave us more confused and more frustrated. And I can speak from personal experience before I became a nutritionist, going through that process and trying to figure out and pinpoint it. I was left hungry, frustrated, without enough food, without a roadmap. And so, I went through the same experience myself, and being able to share that with people and make it so succinct, so precise, and being able to get those outcomes in such a short amount of time is a game changer.
Yeah, and I love that and a huge part of this, what you're alluding to, is education. I think a couple of things is, I want to bring a couple of things, which is a lot of people have a lot of questions, and thank you, keep them coming, and we're going to answer them. But I want to also let you guys know that we do a phone call to get to know you, to figure out, so we can answer some of these questions, and we can figure out and get to know you more to see if and how we can even help, right? So not everyone in every program is a good fit. So that's why we get on the phone and we actually talk to people face to face to actually say, hey, what's really going on, so we can understand and connect. And that's huge. The other part of this is Sattva has a really funny comment. Comedy equals, they say, ask a doctor and he will test you for deficiencies in vitamins and minerals. They act like you just sprouted 2 heads. Sound familiar? Everyone's nodding. How many of you have been 2-headed monsters in your doctor's office and you're just really trying to fight for your life? You're just trying to ask for information, right? And because the problem is, I think this goes to functional values. What's normal and what's optimal is totally There's a big language problem with that, and I'm going to have videos coming out about that too, because what we are calling normal is not optimal. And who the heck wants to be normal anyway? And so it's really interesting. And then when you, and looking at, they're going to tell you, oh, your results are all normal. And then they say, but you're like, but I feel like crap. So is that normal? No, right? Hell no. Okay. So for me, it's really important. Not only do you have to get the right data, but you got to understand what's optimal. What is optimal for people with autoimmune disease? You have to know, because a lot of them just don't have the training, so they don't know. And some of them are open to being educated about that, which is the kind of doctors you want to find, right? And then Satya says, I'm currently suffering from Sjogren's, PBC, and cutaneous vasculitis. What general diet do you recommend? Who knows the answer to this? Anyone? Frankie?
I was waiting to see if anybody else wanted to jump in. There is no general diet. We all are so unique. You know, one of the things, we had a great talk a couple weeks ago about the role of genetics in autoimmune disease. And I think that this question really ties into that, because we are all coming from our own genetic lineage, and that has a huge role to play in how our autoimmune disease manifests, what symptoms we have, what food intolerances we have, what issues in our gut health we have. You know, everything, even from our birth story and how we come into the world, and the good or bad or no bacteria that we collect along the way, has a huge amount to do with our gut resilience. And so it's just like, there's so many layers to it to be able to unpack it and say, what is the general diet that's good for this or that? Because, you know, and that's really what I try to take the time to do in getting to know our clients is, you know, what is the story? What is the history here? What is your, you know, relationship with infection in the past? You know, what was your birth story? You know, these types of questions really allow us to understand, like, where are you coming from and how can we help you?
Well, and I think that's the thing, is, does one size fit all really fit anyone? Everyone's shaking their head in the green room. You know this. You may buy socks like that, and even when you do, it doesn't necessarily fit you, right? But we don't buy pants, shirt. We never buy anything one size fit all. And even when you think about your own diet and food and your reactions, why the heck would one general diet for, I guess, supposedly everyone's Sjogren's fit you? It doesn't. And what we found is that generalized advice about diet fits no one. And then we have a comment from CHAP. CHAP, unmute yourself.
That thing changes every time I log on here. I have a new name.
I know, Shelley.
No, I can't even thank Frankie enough for teaching me how to eat. You know, I was one of the very few that did not have any food intolerances, and so when I first started, I was completely lost. I thought, you know, okay, that's not my problem. But I lost 57 pounds, and it was so easy, you know, and I'm still trying to exercise. I'm not an indoor exerciser, so I have to go outside. I cannot do it inside. So no matter how cold it's been, I just go outside and do my thing. But, you know, to get off my medication immediately, right after, not like 3 months after I'd been started the program, was off my medication, and I have not had a flare up since I started the program, and not an arthritic flare up at all. And I feel great. I'm enjoying not being in pain. I've been painting my house. I've been doing all kinds of stuff. I can't believe it was worth every second of every minute that I put in to that program.
And Shelley, you're no longer the grumpy Grinch living at the corner.
No.
The fear of all the neighborhood children.
No, everybody's nice to me now, and I'm nice back.
I think that it's a great point, though, Shelley, is like, and I think that that's something that we do see. You know, sometimes the food intolerance test will come back without a result, you know, without something positive on it. But what you're saying, Shelley, is so true. It's like, nutrition is complex. This is complex. There's a lot of other tools that we have to work.
It really was like I kept telling you guys, well, I don't eat that much, but I didn't eat all day, and then I would pig out at night, and I thought that was going to help me lose some weight, and it wasn't.
Shelly, I was guilty of the same thing.
Yeah, I just kept getting fatter, and I thought, what in the heck am I doing? And then Frankie was like, no, you need to eat all day, and I was like, well, that's not going to work for me. And I was eating nuts and seeds and breakfast, which I never ate breakfast, and I'd go back to the doctor and I'd get on the scale and I was like, holy crap, I just lost 15 more pounds.
I know, they didn't recognize you, Shelly.
I don't believe it.
They didn't even recognize you, and they were congratulating themselves on how much weight you lost. Remember that one?
Yeah, yeah, they were shocked. They were like, whoa. And I did not know they were talking about me, but I was like, yeah, I don't have as big a belly as I had. The hormone thing was huge too. I had a ton of excess estrogen and absolutely no iron. So, all that stuff has been huge. I can't even thank you guys enough for everything. My family's even happier, because they got their mom back and their wife. So everybody's happy. I'm happy, and I'm just glad I'm not in pain anymore. And, weight loss wasn't a big concern for me at the time. I just wanted to stop hurting. And I think getting a lot of that weight off helped with a lot of the pain as well.
So I have Keith in making a Facebook comment, Keith Walters, and his question really is, it's like he has a list of diagnoses and MS in 2004. He's tried paleo. What's best bet? Name it. All the diet supplements. It's like, how can you help with this? And what is the investment in the program? And for me, it's like, this is complicated, Keith. That's why for me, it's not about a transaction for us. It's a relationship. And so the relationship starts with a conversation. So what I would encourage you to do is go to drmaggieyu.com, make sure you actually watch our training, and there's going to be a link for you to be able to just book a call where we have a real person talk to you and get to know this and understand what's going on with you first. Because we don't know what we can do to help with you until we actually learn more about you. So for me, it's really important. This is not a transaction, it's a relationship. And the relationship starts with a conversation. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. Any questions from people in our audience here? Anybody? Great. And then somebody mentioned, I think Susan had asked about, did we answer Susan's question about the different types of testing that we do? I could get a little bit more specific about the testing. So I want to point out that if you actually go watch training, some of the pillars of our program, the areas that you have to master include, like one of them is definitely hormones. So we absolutely really encourage and we provide testing for hormones. And that's ovarian hormones, testicular hormones for men, and then adrenal hormones. We do food mapping as a process. There is some blood work that's involved that we utilize, and most of you have already had. I mean, we literally have people come to us from Johns Hopkins, Mayo, Cleveland Clinic, and they come to us with their stack load, a suitcase of lab results and said, they're all normal. Can you look at it and see what's wrong with me? Why I feel terrible? And we actually help people really help them learn what really are important and they're shocked when they looked at that stack and they realized how much of it wasn't actually even normal, right?
I know. This is that we talk about the binders of lab results that we see and what people have, collected over the years. And, I think that the certainty and the focus is just to echo what you're saying, Maggie. I mean, the certainty that we have in being able to work with these patterns is so huge, because that's what we love to do, is share that certainty to empower people to have that same level of self-confidence.
Well, and we have just a couple minutes left, and I want to encourage people who are watching this to share this. Anybody that you know with autoimmune disease that could learn, they may not listen to you, but they may listen to us or people in the program to know that there actually is hope out there. There's real answers, real solutions, people with certainty. Why am I so certain? Because I've seen these results over and over again. I know what it can be like in 8 weeks, in 8 months, in a year, right? Because we see it over and over again. Absolutely. Someone just said there's hope. Totally. So for me, really, make sure you watch the training. And one of the questions that I get asked a lot under these lives is behind the scenes right now is people want to know if you guys are real people. And we have a ton of people here in the green room right now. There are people that are not in our program. There's alumni. There's current people that are in our program. I want some of you to actually, can anybody answer whether you guys are real people or not? We're really behind the scenes, so people want to know, are you real people? Jennifer?
I don't know if my internet's working.
It is.
Awesome. I'm a real person. I'm a mom. I work full time, and I have a diagnosis of Hashimoto's and have struggled since I was 15 with autoimmune disorder. And I'm so happy I made this investment in myself, because I can tell just mood-wise, I'm so much better than when I started. And I'm putting all the pieces together. But yeah, totally real. In fact, here's my little man child. I have a child with special needs. And he's a busy boy this evening. And yeah, but no, we're real people. So.
Jackie?
I just want to say really quick too, the amount of fear and stress we go through with autoimmune, one of the things I love working on is self-care with people. And how many of you write a Jennifer or Shelly or Kimberly? I mean, we've had these conversations over and over, and it takes practice to actually self-care. And it's not just coming in the program, because that's a gift to yourself, but it's actually learning daily practices of what does self-care look like. Do any of you have something to say to that was key for you around self-care?
Well, you know what's interesting is Lori, we talk about the role of community supporting you to actually not just self-care for yourself, but a community that you're surrounding you to actually put your metal to the pedal to call you on when you don't care for yourself, right? And Jennifer just spoke, and Lori's in her pod. And Lori, I mean, what's your experience like supporting other people and getting support for self-care?
Actually, I was going to say, can you guys hear me?
Totally.
I'm all about the data and the education, which I was really, really wanting to get, which I did get. What surprised me was the community. What really surprised me was the pod, because they're like my close friends now. I've never met them in person, but we're a team. We talk almost every day on via text, and then once a week. They're great.
And that's what I want to, to me, it's like Susan started this question, or somebody was asking a question, how do you across the United States, I'm not near you, be able to get this experience? And just think about this call and what you experienced. And Susan, I mean, you're part of this call today. Think about what you experienced today. What did it feel like as far as being able to connect with others, being able to learn, being able to feel supported, being able to not feel that you're alone? You're not alone, right? So it's just that this kind of format doesn't exist in clinical care, right? Susan, I'm bringing you back. You're the first questioner. I'm going to have you take us out with you.
No, absolutely. It's to hear from so many people who have been in my position, who have had similar questions, and to hear the responses. It's really inspiring.
So Susan, we're real people. We're real people, real answers, real experience. And I just want to, tonight's show is all about that. Thank you everybody for joining us, for pulling the curtains back. And those of you that are watching, please go to drmaggieyu.com and watch our training about how to actually stop feeding autoimmune disease, how to kill Godzilla, and learn about these tools that we're talking about. And most importantly, get on the phone with us. We want to have a real conversation. We want to learn more about you. So thank you everybody for joining us. Share this, give us some hearts, give us some love. Everybody, thank you for joining us. This is great.
Good night.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.